Hello, today what we're going to do is continue on with writing equations in slope-intercept form, but we're going to get up to the advanced part of it. So the last time we did basic slope-intercept form, now we're going to be in the advanced stages. So I'm going to show you how to do this just with two questions. Right? The first question is about writing an equation in slope-intercept form given a slope and a point that is not the y-intercept. And the second question is about writing the equation given not even a slope, just two ordered pairs. So we'll attack each one of these, and then through that we'll learn how to use slope-intercept form in a more advanced manner. Now just a quick refresher, when we're talking about writing equations, remember we need two things. Okay, to write an equation we need two things. We need a slope and a point. Okay, so we're going to need a slope. We're going to need a point. And then when we look in the first question, we're given just that. We're given a slope and a point. Now in the more basic part of writing equations in slope-intercept form, that point was the y-intercept. Now this is not the y-intercept. So we don't really need the y-intercept to write an equation. We just need any point. But things might get a little bit tricky. So we're talking about slope-intercept form, and this whole thing is focused on, of course, that form. If we recall, slope-intercept form looks like y equals mx plus b. And previously, what we would do is look to see if we had the slope given, which is the m, and then we would look to see if we had the y-intercept given, which is the b. When we read this question, we realize, you know what, we have a slope, but we don't have a y-intercept. Okay, so for number one, we currently have a slope but no y-intercept. We have a slope but no b. So the question is, hey man, we're missing this b. Can we find the b? All right, so can we use the information that we have to find that b? So here's how we figure it out. Do we have a y? And we look through this question, and now we're going to figure out, hey, do we have a y anywhere in here? Well, we have a slope of 1/3, and it passes through -6, -4. And if we know how to read ordered pairs, guess what we have? Remember, in an ordered pair, we have the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate. So do we have a y? Yes, we do. The y-coordinate is -4. Do we have an m? And we read through the question. Remember, m stands for slope. And we realize, hey, we do have an m. M is 1/3. The slope is 1/3. And do we have an x? And we read through the question, and then we go back to that ordered pair. That ordered pair is -6, -4. There's the x-coordinate. We do have an x. It's -6. So when we look at slope-intercept form, we're missing the b. We can't write that, but can we find b? We can find b if we have all of this information. So we have all of this information, and what it means is that we can find b. So what we can do is figure out what b is. All right, so we're going to take that information. We're going to use slope-intercept form, and we're going to find out what b is. So again, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, but we have a y. Remember, the y came from the ordered pair, so we do have a y. The y is -4, and we have the rest of the formula, the equal sign. And of course, do we have an m? Right, we have our m. Where'd the m come from? Given slope of 1/3, so we have our m as 1/3. Now what's happening between the m and the x is multiplication. And so we got to figure out, do we have an x? And remember from the question, we do have an x, it's -6. So do we have an x, it's -6. And remember that that's multiplication. And then we have left plus b. Now remember, we don't know what b is. The whole goal is to use the information that we have so we can find b. So we have the y, we have the m, we have the x. We can find out what this b is. How do we do that? A little number crunching and a little equation solving. We have our -4 on the left-hand side. We have our equal sign. What we have to do now is multiply 1/3 times -6. So we can remember a few different ways to do that. Either make -6 a fraction over 1, multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom, and then we would get -6 divided by 3. -6 divided by 3, of course, is 2. Okay, so remember, we could multiply 1 times -6, making -6 a fraction over 1. And then we find out that -6 divided by 3 is -2. And then there's our plus b. Now what we can do is solve for b. So we did our number crunching to get -4 equals -2 plus b. Let's solve for b. To get b by itself, we have to undo this -2. And we undo that by adding 2 on both sides. And then we will find out, I made a mistake, that's what we'll find out. -4 plus 2 is -2, not -4. -2 plus 2 is -2. b is by itself. We now have our b. Okay, so we found b to be -2. So we do all that work. We figure out b is -2. But remember the original question. The original question is, write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. Okay, so if we're going to write equations of line in slope-intercept form, now it's like that basic slope-intercept form that we used. Remember, we have y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Now we have that information. So what we're going to do now is use this same formula again, but finish the formula. Finish writing the equation. So we write the equation. Y equals m is the slope that we have, and we go back to the original problem. Slope is 1/3. So the m is 1/3. Here's our x. Here's the plus sign. And then b comes from the y-intercept. Now where is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is what we found. Remember, we did all that work to find out that b is -2. So there's our y-intercept, -2. So we've substituted our m, we've substituted our b. All we got to do now is clean up this mess. Remember, we don't want plus minus in there. So we clean up our mess. Y equals 1/3 x plus minus is a minus, -2. And there is our equation of the line that meets this criteria. The equation of the line that has a slope of 1/3 and passes through this ordered pair. Here's what that equation looks like. Okay, and when you plug in this ordered pair, when you plug in -6 for x, -4 for y, -6 for x, -4 for y, we will have a true equation. And that's how we can use the more advanced form of slope-intercept form for that question. But what about the second question? What about this question that's telling us to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form that passes through those two ordered pairs? Well, we go back to the things that we need. What do we need to write an equation? We need a slope, and we need a point. So we read through this question. Do we have a slope? This question does not give us a slope. So we're stuck, right? Well, one might think, can we find the slope? Okay, so that's the question we have to ask. Can we find the slope? Can we find slope given two ordered pairs? Absolutely, we sure can. Okay, so we can find the slope. We have those two ordered pairs, -4, 5, and 1, -15. And we can find the slope of those two ordered pairs. Remember, slope is the change in y over the change in x. And we can use these two ordered pairs to find our change in y over the change in x. I like to work left to right again, right? So I'm going to say 5 minus means change, the difference. So the difference between 5 and -15. That's the change in y. And the change in x, again, I'm working from left to right. My x here is -4. Change means difference. I'm going to subtract. So the difference between -4 and 1. And so I can find my slope this way. At the top, I have 5 minus -15. Minus a negative turns into a plus, so that's 20. At the bottom, I have negative 4 minus 1, which is negative 5. And remember to always simplify your slope. So we have 20 divided by negative 5. My slope is negative 4. All right, so back to the question. We're going to write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form that passes through these 2 points. To write an equation, we need a slope and a point. We weren't given slope, but we just found it. The slope is negative 4. Now, what else do we need to write an equation? We need a point. Do we have a point? Yes, we do. In fact, we have 2 points. We can use this point, or we can use this point. It doesn't matter. We'll have the same answer. Okay, we'll end up with the same equation whichever way we go. So I'll demonstrate that in a second. But first, let me use this point. So I'll use the first point. If we have the point negative 4, 5, and we have our slope of negative 4, we can do what we did in the first problem. We can use y equals mx plus b. And remember, we don't know what b is. We don't know what b is. But do we have a y? Yes, we do. The y is 5. Do we have an m? Yes, we do. We found it. The m is negative 4. The slope is negative 4. Do we have an x? Yes, we do. The x is also negative 4. With that information, we can find out our b. So again, we found the y to be 5. The m we found from the previous work is negative 4. And the x is also negative 4. So we can substitute into y equals mx plus b. So we'll have 5 being equal to m, which is negative 4, times x, which is also negative 4, plus b. And we'll be able to find b. Okay, so we'll be able to find b that way. So we have 5 on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. And there's our plus b. And to find out what b is, we can solve. We can undo this 16 by subtracting it on both sides. 5 minus 16 is negative 11. And then b is by itself. We found out what our b is. Our b is negative 11. So we've done that piece of work. Go back to the question. Well, what are we doing? We're writing an equation of a line in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form, again, is y equals mx plus b. Where we need to have an m, we need to have a b. Do we have an m? Yes, we do. The m is what we found up here through this work. Our m is negative 4. So we have y equals negative 4. The x stays x, the plus stays plus. Do we have a b? We sure do. We just found it. The b is negative 11. So we have y equals negative 4x plus negative 11. All we have to do is clean that up, clean that mess up. So we have y equals negative 4x plus minus is minus 11. And there is our equation in slope-intercept form. So we know the slope is negative 4, the y-intercept is negative 11. This is the equation of the line in slope-intercept form that passes through negative 4, 5, and 1, negative 15. So we were able to find out that way. Just remember, in general, when we are writing the equation of a line, we need a slope, we need a point. If we are not given the slope, we can find it. And if we have the slope and a point, we can find out what the y-intercept is, what the b is, and then write our equation. And that's how we use slope-intercept form in a more advanced way.